This video is one I've been wanting to do since I first started making film reviews about a year ago. There have been a number of insults hurled at the most recent addition to the Charlie's Angels franchise, which I managed to finally see while working on the outline for this video. It was pretty average, but I'm not here to talk about that. Being that there is a new installment, I had the misfortune of stumbling across some discourse regarding the franchise that dragged the good name of the 2000s films through the mud by claiming that those films had been made to target a male audience. I have not been this outraged by film discourse since I saw a bad take on Guy Ritchie's film, The Gentleman, which has not even come out yet. So I am here to set the record straight once and for all that Charlie's Angels 2000 is an iconic contribution to cinema and still holds up today. When Sony Pictures was developing a new film adaptation of Charlie's Angels, Drew Barrymore's producing partner Nancy Juvonen told her that they needed to get in there and try to land the project. They presented their creative vision together, and Drew rigged up 2 VCRs to make a reel of various films to embody what she wanted to make. These films included Foul Play, the Bruce Lee film Enter the Dragon, and the musical number from Used Cars, which served as a creative prelude to Cameron Diaz dancing. Not only was this pitching successful, Drew was the one to pick McG to direct the film. Up until that point, he had never directed a feature film. He had made a name for himself in the music industry, both as a producer and a director of music videos.
And the fact that McG, our director, was such a leader and combined all this cultural knowledge in film and history and music and musicals and incorporated them into a wonderful new film was yet honoring the series.
McG worked in a number of references to other films, including Great Escape, Birdman of Alcatraz, Mission Impossible, a deleted scene in the Red Star bathrooms that was a nod to The Shining, and of course, The Matrix.
We did the work that it took, and sometimes it would hurt so bad, but you just think, you know, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You're working with Kung Fu masters, and It was great because I really studied old Kung Fu movies like Iron Monkey and Once Upon a Time in China and, you know, Drunken Master and all the Bruce Lee movies, and it was so great to get well-versed in this whole, you know, genre. And they add so much character and humor to their action sequences, which is so fun.
Now, Lucy, all the workout in this, was that strenuous for you?
Oh, it was intensive. We worked out 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and I think that is in itself, like after 2 hours, you're generally like, oh my God, I had the best workout, you know, and you go pig out afterwards. You literally couldn't walk after you left. And the next day when you woke up, you felt like somebody just came in and like ran over.
You're like getting out of bed like this. You're like,
you know, you're like to cross your legs, you're like.
Really? It was bad.
Yeah, it was really
And you all
bad.
were in shape, pretty much. It wasn't
I mean, I felt like I was like, oh great, you know, because they had started training before me like a month and a half, and I thought, oh, no problem. I went in there to kick my ass.
Really?
Yeah. You want to be really overzealous?
Yeah, because I went in and I felt really flexible and great, and I was like kicking really high, and I'm like, wow, she's got great flexibility. The next day, I literally was like,
can't do anything.
I couldn't even tie my shoelace.
And it's true you had to be on ropes and harnesses to do the flips and everything?
Yeah, they would put they would lasso our foot, and like pull it on the other side, you know, so we'd have to lift our leg higher the more they pulled. I mean, it was insane.
Wire fu is a style of action that combines wire work and kung fu. It is something that has existed for many decades in Hong Kong cinema, but experienced a more international surge of interest after the Wachowski sisters used it in The Matrix.
Well, you know, these two girls have amazing flexibility. They're like rubber bands. You got any around here, it's just like you just pull them back and they're just quink, 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 like this. And I'm not built. I'm not built like that. I'm longer. It's further for me to stretch, so I'm already stretched to my limit. So she's very athletic.
She's extremely, I mean, literally, the master would say, okay, we want you to do this move, which would take us months to learn.
No.
And she'd go, okay, and she'd just flip, she'd just do it like that.
Yeah.
That must have annoyed you, too, didn't it?
Sometimes you get frustrated, but it's true. When someone does something, you know, it encourages you to keep trying, and whenever I would get frustrated and I'd be like, I can't do it! And she would, yeah, because I did.
She did. That's
She did that noise a lot.
And I know, totally. And she would be like, no, Pooh, you can do it. I'm going to stay with you until you get it. And then you do it and you cry.
Yeah,
we're so happy that you stuck with it.
And these girls, it didn't take them months to do anything. I mean, they learned right away.
Yeah.
We didn't have that much time. They had to. But the splits I had to be forced, like, the guys would just, our trainers who are amazing and so caring. I don't want you guys to get the wrong impressions. Going to set this up. They're amazing. They loved us. They cared for us as they held me down on the floor, one across this leg and the other one pushing this one up. It's just like, screaming and crying. But, the whole time that you're crying and going, this really, really hurts, they're like, I know. Sorry. I'm sorry. I know.
Yeah. That's very helpful, wasn't it? Now, I hear that you threw...
Perfect impression of them, by the way.
I know.
Exactly.
The lead actresses of Charlie's Angels trained rigorously together in preparation for the film's action to up their strength, flexibility, and overall knowledge of the various fight choreography and wire work that they would be doing, so as to make the action sequences look better than if they were to excessively rely on cutting away to their stunt doubles every time a battle started. Chung Yan was brought in to help with the action, and he can also be seen in the film's opening sequence in the plane talking to another passenger. Chung Yan comes from a family of famous specialists in Hong Kong action. He and his brother have worked in renowned projects from both the Hong Kong and Hollywood film industries.
If Cameron, needs to kick Crispin in the chest, he wants perfect extension out of her leg, and he wants the toe pointed this way instead of pointed this way because it's more beautiful and more correct and respectful of the ancient traditions and arts. And
He even said before we started, when I say we need to do it again, you need to trust that we need to do it again. But when I say we got it, you have to trust that we got it.
just sort of his response when it goes right transcends any language barrier. Because you see him with this big smile, like this big thumbs up, and he starts clapping.
And then when he finally gives you the thumbs up, you know it really means something. You know you've done something well and you've made an accomplishment.
And I'm just very pleased with the performance that they had.
For him to say that to me, like they don't give compliments.
I just have such high respect for him. We've brewed to be very close with them too, and they're so wonderful, and I can't imagine having done this film without them.
We became a very tight family, very harmonious.
I just felt so tough and strong, and it was just thrilling to me.
It's very impressive, and I was jealous because I wanted to learn all that stuff.
Any critiques against the hyper-stylized action of Charlie's Angels have completely missed the point. There is a meticulous design for the film's aesthetic to build this unique and exciting world that audiences are transported to, and the action goes hand in hand with that.
There's the world that you and I live in, and then there's the angel world that has its own rules.
An extra beautiful place, a heightened reality that was ultimately grounded in reality.
Each scene, had its own signature. I wanted it to feel like a gigantic storybook where you were turning pages. You remember the scene at the racetrack. You remember Cameron's dream. You remember Lucy inside of a chrome Airstream trailer. The Swiss Miss yodeler scene. You would never confound this page with the current page with the page that's about to follow.
So that gives you a certain freedom to go all the way. We decided at the very beginning to try and hit a style cooler and sillier and Saturday morning cartoonish, which was fun, not so high style. And colors were fun and joyous. And we talked about reds, and we talked about golden yellows, and we talked about monochromatic sets. And so we hit a tone that we knew right away which was there. And it wasn't something that we'd seen before.
One of the most overlooked aspects of the film's action design is the deliberate absence of guns from the major action sequences. This was something that Drew Barrymore deemed important because of the responsibility she felt for the young, impressionable viewers that would likely idolize the Angels. But I have to admit that I never once noticed the refreshing subversion of excluding guns from a giant action blockbuster until I started doing research for this video about a year ago. At no point do the Angels use guns to win their fights.
Now, whose decision was it to have no guns, to have the Angels have no guns?
Which is an amazing idea, because I think if we go in there and we're supposed to be taken seriously, I mean, it's a goofy, fun movie, but if you want to be taken seriously, you also want to make sure that you can replace it with something that is strong and is intense. Because we know that kids are going to go see it, and we want them to, and there's a certain responsibility, and we don't want them to go out and think, oh, I want to be Charlie's Angels, like when we were younger. You run around and you have fake guns and stuff like that. And nowadays, kids could probably have access to guns. We know that. I mean,
Yes.
we've seen that, you know, and it's really horrible. And it's
Did you have a lot of
unfortunate.
resistance, Drew, when you brought that up at the studio level? or-
Well, you know, it was a matter of, well, how do you make that work and what do you replace that with, you know? And I've been talking a lot about sort of like Indiana Jones and Superman and this sort of older genre that was a little bit more romantic than some of the Western movies with a lot of artillery and body count, which are great too. But there's a responsibility there, and it's not patronized, it's not beaten over your head.
Right, we're not like, don't use guns. We're just like, oh, this guy's coming at me. Let me kick him in the groin.
Yeah, and you do the exactly.
Let me opt for the other option. You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
you do the work with your hands, and how interesting a world would be if you could actually primally, you know, do
It's very
hand-to-hand
visceral,
combat,
right,
you know.
instead.
And we jump out of airplanes and drive speedboats and race cars, so there's so much going on, you don't miss that. And I think
Right.
that's the important thing to do, is don't just take something away, replace it with something
Exactly.
fun.
And I think
you
it's
know?
great when there's an actress who's able to stand up and say that, you know, I think that this is important and I wish we could do it another way, and then do it.
There were critics that actually had the audacity to claim that the angels were not different enough from one another. My only response to that is, did you even watch the film?
I'm the first person to raise my hand for putting myself into the most embarrassing situation I can possibly find. So to get up in front of, you know, 150 amazing dancers and dance in front of them and just make a complete ass out of myself was like a thrill for me, and just what I live for and what I want to do with.
Natalie is the girl next door. She's friendly, bubbly, and can endear herself to practically anyone.
That was fast.
They don't call me Balls Out Natalie for nothing.
She gets nervous about talking to a new love interest, knows bird calls, and she loves to dance. That style of movement is also evident in her fight choreography. The action and stunt team specifically designed the choreography to suit how the actresses moved during their training sessions. While Natalie's style became more elegant, Dylan ended up being more of a brawler.
Drew is a barroom fighter. Cameron is fantastically elegant. She's very fast with her moves and her spins and everything else. And Lucy is a mixture of the two. They've all got their own sort of threat.
They catered to that. They saw what we were capable of and gave us those things to accomplish. I wasn't so great at the kicks. I was good in the wires.
I strive to be like my character. I feel like my life has improved immensely since I started playing her. I've skydived and we scuba dived with sharks, and we went on this survival trip from hell with no food, tents, water, or warm clothes.
For 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
4 days, 3 nights.
Felt like forever, but I mean, it wasn't that long, but I feel like, you know, we trained and we learned Kung Fu. You know, I feel like this year of my life is different than any other year.
Dylan is the rebel child with the troubled past. She loves to play Scrabble and also has a propensity for free love, which serves further proof of how relevant the film has stayed after 2 decades.
I want to shake.
At no point does the larger narrative degrade her for this aspect of her personality. She is a grown woman and can flirt and hook up with as many men as she pleases. These are not committed relationships after all, she's just having her fun. In this corner of the Charlie's Angels universe, Natalie and Alex like to tease her for having a propensity to crush on the bad guy, but that's nothing but playful banter between friends.
Jason, I'm 1/3 of an elite crime-fighting team backed by an anonymous millionaire.
It should surprise no one that I would save Alex for last. She's my favorite angel if I'm being forced to pick only one. She cannot cook. She's stuck in the dilemma of whether or not to tell her boyfriend about what she really does for a living, and she will serve you a leather moment and a hair flip better than anyone else. She's supremely cool and confident and has some of the best shutdowns towards unwanted male attention I've ever seen.
Thanks for the offer, but my hands aren't going anywhere near your stuff.
I was wondering if...
No.
So you're saying
No.
there's no chance
No.
I would love to be more like Alex too, but I was not born with money, so it changes everything, doesn't it? But I do feel like, you know, she has the intelligence and the wit and the heart that anyone would love to have, and I admire her very much, and she has a lot of strength too, which I hope to have that, you know, with me from her. She's given me something.
Can we get started this millennium?
Charlie's Angels served up a really fun mix of iconic villains. Tim Curry brought all his devilish charm to the red herring character of Roger Corwin.
Never send a man to do a woman's job.
Kelly Lynch is Vivian Wood, who serves an important reminder to the audience that everyone needs to be conscious of leaving their drinks unattended in the company of strangers. She also holds her own in the action sequences in which she goes up against Cameron Diaz. Creepy Thin Man is a character Crispin Glover was highly involved in developing. Originally, the character had dialogue. Crispin thought the dialogue was terrible and purely expositional, so he was insistent that the character should be played as a mute. Creepy Thin Man is also memorable for other quirks and idiosyncrasies such as his high-pitched screams and an affinity for women's hair. But of course, the most important villain to discuss is Eric Knox. First of all, the idea to let Sam Rockwell dance around and peacock to fully demonstrate Knox being his unfiltered self is genius. Given McGee's background in directing music videos, I would not be surprised if it was his suggestion, but I'm just speculating on that matter. But before Knox has revealed himself to be a villain, the entire process of introducing this character is fantastic. When he's first been rescued, he wears baggier clothing, ugly khaki trousers, and Sam Rockwell plays him as being more reserved and demure. He looks down when Dylan is looking at him with interest, and he's a bit awkward in how he interacts with her. Then, when it's time for him to reveal his true nature, he's wearing all black, the clothing is tighter, his whole body language changes. There's a level of confidence and charisma that he's been hiding up until this point. And the fact that Sam Rockwell is such a skilled actor ends up serving the character really well because Knox is deceptive. And being effective at deception means being able to act.
Revenge is fun.
Well, I feel like the personal relationship that people had with the television show is different than any other TV show that's been made into a movie for different reasons. I think all the television shows that have been remade were obviously important enough to get to that place where they wanted to remake them. But this one, I mean, girls played Charlie's Angels when they were growing up. Men liked it because it was exciting to see girls driving the cars that the guys loved and wearing exquisite fashion and sort of doing the man's job without male bashing. I think those are exciting things, and I think women love it because the women are empowered, they're smart, they're doing the detective work, they're solving the crimes, and they're having a really good time doing it. And also the fact that women can work together and be friends is amazing. It's not rare, it's just wonderful.
I remembered it growing up. My sister played Charlie's Angels, and I just thought they were beautiful women who were powerful, and they were role models to me. They were women that I saw myself growing up to be, you know?
And I remember it vaguely, and I think that everyone, we played Charlie's Angels ourselves, and I don't know that much about the series in terms of the specifics and the outfits and the storylines, but I mean, Charlie's Angels just exists, and everyone was always in awe of the series.
So what of this false notion that Charlie's Angels was made to appeal to men? This simply is not true. They do not only look cool to women who find them aspirational, nor do they only exist to be physically attractive to men, or anyone that has an attraction to women for that matter. Their appeal lies in their complete well-roundedness as characters. As I've previously touched on, the Angels are incredibly smart. Throughout the film, they display a knowledge of a wide array of topics, including languages, technology, bird calls, Scrabble, the list goes on and on. Then there is the fashion of Charlie's Angels, which is so undeniably brilliant. There are the more memorable, eccentric looks for them as they go on various missions, such as being milkmaids, belly dancers, or even men. But there was also a ton of thought put into the individual fashion to showcase each angel's unique style and personality.
What do you find most engaging about the three angels?
Their wardrobes.
The angels gotta look absolutely extraordinary.
They look damn good.
When they are as casual as sort of t-shirts and jeans and doing their sort of surfer girl thing, or when they have the red sparkly dress, or when they're in wetsuits coming out of the ocean, or when they're in, the pit suits from the race car scene, they always need to look their best. And, Joe Alisi convinced me of the importance of taking each lady for who she is.
With the original show, the three girls were quite similar in terms of their body types. Our look is much more individual per actress than I think maybe the original was. Cameron's, we sort of went with a California, very fresh, spontaneous. There's a waitress in one of the parties. But it's, again, just a really sort of clear, quick statement of somebody who really wants to just put an outfit on. And
Will Dillon's character has a little tramp to her, a little free-loving and free-living.
She's so cool, and she's just tough, and she's sexy.
I'm more a flower child in a relaxed way, so what I've done is taken things like an old Spanish shawl and done some vintage work. Colors are softer as opposed to some of the other angels. Lucy's character is more cosmopolitan and international.
She's high class. She wears a lot of black in the movie.
Her palette is a much stronger, darker, a little more serious, and we use a lot of very form-fitting leather on her, fitted leather jackets. Well, I've tried to give an elegance to the whole thing, and it's a choice of color and fabric. Cameron has an elaborate beaded dress. It's a pale blue chiffon dress, totally studded with clear stones. It was done in sort of the 50s movie musical style. In one scene, the girls are attending elaborate gala. This, again, is a beaded dress of Lucy Liu's. The skirt just breaks away. So it's been fun to try to design things in several different modes, both elegant and fashionable and still ready for action.
The action of Charlie's Angels is not only artistic and exciting to watch, but it empowers the women watching to feel like they too can build the strength to fend for themselves. A lot of the people that attack them in the film are men, and the idea that they're able to protect themselves in such dangerous situations is immensely satisfying to watch. The angels are undeniably beautiful, but a lot of that comes from far more than just having good genes. It's the total sum of their fashionable looks, their confidence in themselves, their total ownership of their bodies, and the joy they experience from having all of the best that life can offer. They have successful careers with a really cool job.
Sounds impossible.
Sounds like fun.
They are teamed up with their best friends who support them not only professionally when they are risking their lives on dangerous missions, but with the more personal problems they have outside of the over-the-top circumstances of their work.
Flip your hair.
What?
Flip your goddamn hair.
Originally, romance was not intended to be part of the story for the Angels, but Drew Barrymore ended up being the one to insist that it be added. Drew had this to say about it in an interview with Elle. "Look, I'm sorry. Girls want love at the end of the day. We want sisterhood, we want to have each other's backs, and then we want to meet back up in the morning and talk all about what happened at night with the boy. It's what girls do." I was like, there has to be an element of relationship, so that's why I taped this scene from Foul Play, and it was just very true to what a girl likes and feels. What if that girl also loved her girlfriends and was a real sister, and they had each other's backs, and they were kick-ass, and they loved to laugh? Because a girl without a sense of humor? Oof. 20 years later, and Charlie's Angels still holds up. The action is incredible, and the set pieces and color design look fantastic.
The Chinese alley we did all on stage, which had backings going all the way around it. It was 3 stories in some areas.
Well, we originally were going to go and shoot that at Universal. They have a little alleyway, which is great. And then I saw the rental, what it would cost to rent this place. I can build this on a stage for 3/4 of that, but at least they'll have the facility shooting at the daytime, they'll have control, they won't have to worry about weather and all that stuff. In the set itself, we again stylized it a bit, and it became very close to what originally had inspired us, which was West Side Story.
To me, one of the most interesting set was the Knox residence. We wanted to look into a John Lautner style of architecture.
Even though we didn't have much time, we knew we had an opportunity to make it really special. It is the kind of play toy that a kid who's just done a .com company would buy because it's cool. It's a great chick pad, real 50s, 60s modern. Big, huge panels of glass. Each one of them was a different size and a different shape. And surrounded by trees and this beautiful landscape out in the sun, which is downtown LA. We did a very large backing. I think it was 160 feet by 35 feet. And we put on maybe 1,200 little blinking lights.
I would go there every day and I'd look around at the stage and I couldn't believe it was a set. I couldn't believe it.
We had great fun with sets like the mainframe where Natalie breaks in.
Very stylized, very high-tech. You didn't know from one room to the next what was going to happen. Borderline James Bond-ish kind of feel.
The other part of Red Star was the outside of the mainframe. I had designed this circular hallway. Then McGee had this idea of the bathroom, and as an homage to Stanley Kubrick, it is exactly the bathroom in The Shining. The Soul Train set was McGee's idea right from the beginning. He wanted Soul Train. That was it. He wanted Soul Train.
That was fun. It was using the existing Soul Train, and we added a few things to it. We added a lot of red.
I wanted it red, because I wanted it red hot. I wanted lacquer, and I wanted flashy, bright, vaudeville, winky blinky style lights that said Soul Train, Soul Train, Soul Train.
So we went in and I made this giant Soul Train sign with the lights. Of course, all of that means nothing because Cameron stole the show with that.
It's just great when you have somebody on your team who you can just give a few words of description and they just go for it and they make you look good. The proof's in the pudding and up there on the screen.
The soundtrack is vibrant and one of the clearest indications of when it was released, but nostalgia is always fun, and the song choices only enhance the impact of the impression that the film leaves. Whether it's Cameron Diaz dancing to Sir Mix-a-Lot, Drew Barrymore destroying a room of henchmen to Blur, Lucy Liu inventing the word boss to Barracuda, the Angels wire-fooing the hell out of Creepy Thin Man to Prodigy, or Sam Rockwell dancing to Simon Says. With all the discussions that are taking place about better representation for women and diverse groups in general, Charlie's Angels 2000 is a massive trailblazer. There's been a massive upspike in superhero films over the last decade, but there have only been a handful of them that have been led by women. Charlie's Angels are practically superheroes in their own right, but with better outfits and better action than the vast majority of the superhero films that have saturated the market today. The Angels embodied a well-rounded power fantasy to not only have all of the best things that life can offer, but to also be awe-inspiring to the audience. The Angels were never once questioned about their ability to do things simply because they're women. If people in the story are inclined to underestimate them or be easily distracted by their looks, the Angels simply use that to their advantage, but they can also be fiercely strong and aggressive. It just depends on the mission and what the circumstances are. They do not need to constantly reference the struggles that women face in the real world because the Charlie's Angels world is a heightened, surreal place that is better than the real world. This film is a visionary work of art with a genuine love at the heart of it between these actresses. When Lucy Liu got her long overdue star on the Walk of Fame this year, both Cameron and Drew showed up to support her. Keep in mind that these women do not have a new film that they need to promote together, so they don't need to do this. They chose to do this. Cameron Diaz doesn't even act anymore. The bond that they forged working together in this universe is real, and it shows on screen. Really, I could wax poetic for hours about Charlie's Angels, but I'll just leave it with this. True friendship lasts forever, and never trust a nerd wearing ugly khaki trousers.